What's going on, Three Man Weave family? It's the lovely co-host ZD in the building with the other lovely co-host CJ. We coming at you guys live on a Monday. It's August 4th. And yeah, we got an action-packed three-man weave outline for you guys, man. We're going to talk about Luka Dončić re-signing, De'Aaron Fox re-signing as well. And then we got the offseason files. You know how we do it on this show. Memphis Grizzlies is the one next up in alphabetical order. But CJ, there's no room for hesitation. So how are you doing, my man? How are you feeling?
Man, doing good, bro. We just had a good little chop it up session. It was good, talking and obviously like we talk about basketball. It's good just to kind of talk about life and kind of
Other
what we're
stuff,
going
yeah.
through, and the fact that you were like you appreciate that. It's like, bro, of course, you're not even just my one like a co-host for the pod. You're one of my friends, bro. So being able to talk to you about stuff
Likewise.
like that, bro, it's awesome. And got
Blessing.
a couple things off my chest, and now we're about to chop it up about some hoops. So can't complain.
Yeah.
It's a good Monday, and I think this week's gonna be a good one. So I'm ready for this.
Solid. Yeah, bro. I mean, what better way to kick it off, man? I'm gonna break it. We're gonna start it right off today. But yeah, let's dive into this headline. San Antonio Spurs re-signing De'Aaron Fox, bro. 4 years, 230 million. Honestly, my day, we spoke about it like you just brought it up. It's been tough the last week for me, but today it got a little better. Had a client book a call, and then I saw this headline, and it made me happy, bro. I just wanted to start off by speaking on it personally. I think De'Aaron Fox is the type of player that deserves this type of contract. For people who don't know, De'Aaron Fox plays for the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
He has put in a lot of work, time, and effort to be the type of player that he is. We were speaking about it a lot before we hopped on, but his improvement from the 3-point line is really what's gotten me off my seat. I think for De'Aaron Fox to take the next level as a superstar player in this league, it was for him to add that 3-pointer. I would say he hasn't added it, like solidified it, but he's added it. He's a threat from there. Now he can definitely, if you leave him open, make you pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just opens up the floor so much for Wemby, other guys, Carter Bryant, Dylan Harper, Vassell, you name it. But De'Aaron Fox being I wouldn't say the focal point. Wemby's the focal point, but the engine. He's kind of calling all the plays, making sure guys are in the right spots. That's going to be really good to have for the next 4 years. And
Yeah.
looking at their balance sheet, you brought it up, and I took a look as well. I have it in my notes. Yeah, the Spurs are going to be expensive, bro. I mean, unless they
Sure.
move off of somebody, their roster's jam packed with players who provide a ton of value in their role.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is contracts that are very high. And I think San Antonio is one of those places that isn't necessarily used to all the lights and all the glitz and the glamour, but they do provide results. They do hold a lot of titles, especially within the last 2 decades. And I think we're starting to see the formation of that little team right now, man. And I brought up Carlos. I know he's very excited seeing this headline as well. So it put a smile on my face, bro. Like initially, just speaking about it from a personal perspective, I think this is really, really good for the Spurs. And as they continue to grow, I think De'Aaron Fox is the perfect person to be able to lead that team. He's going to get Wemby involved. He's going to push the pace. Like I said, he's worked on a lot of different things to improve his game. And, I mentioned it just a minute ago, but he spent a lot of time doing that, man. And it's starting to finally show. It shows in the results. It shows in the numbers. And only playing 18 games for them last season, you could say that we don't really have a big sample size, but I'm going to side with the Spurs on this one. I think they're going to be okay.
Me too.
And as I brought this up, a point guard that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, Ja Morant, wanted to start it off with a hot take, man. I think De'Aaron Fox, peak De'Aaron when healthy, is better than Ja. Just because of that 3-pointer, what he can do. Obviously, with the assists, there's similar assist numbers, but I don't want people to gloss over this. I think De'Aaron Fox is easily a top 10 point guard in this league, and he's only shown us that the last 3-4 years. CJ,
Mm-hmm.
we spoke about it, bro. The All NBA selection with the Kings,
Mm-hmm.
with Demont. We've seen De'Aaron Fox with a really good center, and Wemby is better than Domantas Sabonis, and Sabonis is a potential Hall of Famer.
Right.
But what Wemby can do, we've never seen before. So you add De'Aaron Fox, who's growing into his prime,
Yeah.
with Wembenyama. Ooh wee,
Man.
ooh wee. I'm excited to hear what you think, man.
Dude, yeah, like kind of the same sentiment that you have, bro. Super excited. I know, like you said, De'Aaron Fox has improved every single year that he's been in the league, and the fact that he's able to, like you said, not be a crazy lethal shooter from the 3-point line, but just kind of improved each year. And now you have to respect him. I think that kind of just shows the type of player he is. And, coming into the league really wasn't a shooter. It was more so just a slasher getting to the rim,
Sure. Yeah.
super athletic, like, being able to score and kind of he got his mid-range game. And then he just has polished his game so well. And I think, the glimpse that we were able to get from this the time that he played with the Spurs, I think, like you said, I'm completely on board with it. You know what I mean? I think it's something where I think that was the main thing whenever we saw rookie year for Wemby, just kind of the type of team that he was on, and just the type of players wasn't really giving him the opportunities to be what he can be. But when you have, like you said, I mean, you said it, a top 10 point guard in the league when healthy, when playing full season, I think it's a recipe for success for the Spurs. I think we've talked about him a decent amount, like throughout this whole year. And obviously Carlos, shout out to the boy, is a Spurs fan. I told him, bro, literally told him last year, told him 2 years ago before they drafted Wemby. I'm like, bro, y'all are on the come up. Y'all have Wemby. And this is obviously before Stephon Castle, before Dylan Harper, before De'Aaron Fox. So, they do have a log jam at the guard position, and that's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of maneuver that. But you have one of the best point guards in the league, and you have arguably one of the best players, generational type players in the past 30 years. So it's kind of hard to bet against them. And, like I said, I say it all the time. I'm not a Spurs fan, but I appreciate what they've done for the league, and I appreciate, like how you said, they're not a glitz and glammy type of city in San Antonio, but they produce wins and they win championships. And as a franchise, that's all you can really ask for. And they do it the right way. You know what I mean? They build through their draft. They get like good players, or players that were kind of overlooked. So the fact that they're able to get two solidified stars, I would say, in De'Aaron Fox and Wemby already, and he's going on his third year, the future is looking super bright for them. And I can't wait to see what De'Aaron Fox has to offer for them for this upcoming season, because I wouldn't be surprised if they get 2 All-Stars this year. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, he had that issue with his tendon this year in his hand. Yeah, and it's difficult because I don't know if this injury is super major. We need to see him whenever he comes back, but I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be fine. The only other thing I wanted to bring up on this situation was the number signaled to me that they could move him if he's not performing. Mm-hmm. It's just such a big contract, and like I think it's starting at $50 million, and like you said, it escalates to 61, and teams need that money on their roster. Especially, it depends on if they're willing to take his services, maybe at a discount. That was the only thing that signaled to me. It wasn't like they weren't. They definitely told De'Aaron, like, you're our guy for sure, but they're being smart here financially, right, and looking at the longer time horizon, and most likely De'Aaron Fox has 3-4 years left of peak De'Aaron Fox, and that's going to be that, and so I think the Spurs are looking to secure that, and they have, and that's really, really good, man. And yeah, watch out in the West. If you're a Spurs fan, you should be excited. They've built a really great team, and like you've been telling Carlos for the last couple of years, they're on the come up, and they're aside from not having, a big city and all the lights and Hollywood movie stars and all that, they've won a ton of championships. And it always goes back to that's why we play. That's why we play the game of basketball, man, is to win. Yep. And the Spurs have done a lot of that, and they're going to continue to do so with Fox and Wemby at the helm. So I'm glad that's what you think, man. I'm glad that made you happy. This next topic, though, is my favorite of the day. Obviously, I am a Lakers fan. I did want to speak on Luka's extension, 3-year, $165 million deal. And again, I'll start off with the finances on this one. You guys know how I feel about it personally. I'm ecstatic, so we'll wait. But Pelinka is playing this game right here. He understands LeBron is on the way out. We spoke about this on a podcast that hasn't released yet. It'll come out soon, but I brought it up, man. LeBron, moving off of LeBron, moving on, moving off of, trading, looking into the future. That's what this thing, that's when you talk about your balance sheet and you understand, hey, we just got bought by the Dodgers management. We're going to have a lot of capital rolling in. One of our main guys is going to be leaving. That max spot is going to be open. Let's secure this with Luka Dončić on our balance sheet, and then we now know we have him as more value to get somebody to come join the Lakers. You don't think people want to play with Luka Dončić? So financially, this is a very strategic move because it's going to allow us to keep it clean. The number is 55 a year, not too expensive for Dončić. 32 point triple double, probably could be making a little more than that, but I think we're intending on signing that 4-year, 418, the biggest contract in NBA history if Dončić can secure it. And in terms of our finances, I think it sets us up for success in the future because we understand LeBron is on the out. We need to have the security of Dončić's contract, maybe even to trade him if he ever becomes disgruntled. It's really important to have guys signed for longer terms. And so I think strategically and financially, that was the goal there. Obviously, you want to signal to Luka that he's the main franchise player. I think we could have given him more money, but him signing for 55 a year is comfortable with me. And then obviously going into my personal view of all of this, I'm just really happy that we have another franchise player on the Lakers. My dad, I told you this, but Pops had called me and he texts me all from time to time, but we always speak about Luka. One thing he brought up is, Kobe, RIP Kobe, but if Kobe could see what the Lakers are doing right now, he'd be really happy. And I think we've always been blessed, man. That's the other thing I was going to say. I think the Lakers have been blessed to always have money, even in the poor era in the 70s, 60s, have owners who are willing to spend and take risks. And we've always had our franchise guy, and I think Luka Dončić is the next person after LeBron James to fill that role. And I'm, again, this dude to me is the best player in the NBA when healthy. We haven't seen him be that in a year. And so, he's still got I wouldn't say he has much to prove, but he's got a point to prove in terms of getting back to the apex, which is reaching the NBA Finals and then winning. And so to me, I'm happy to see what Luka Dončić continues to do throughout the years. I'm just so thankful to have a franchise player of his caliber at our disposal at any given time. And again, it's just going to improve the skill of everybody around Luka. I think having Luka as the heliocentric force of your offense gives guys like AR, Ayton, other guys opportunities to really step up and be efficient. They're not going to get doubled and triple teamed. And, that all that focus is geared towards Luka. I just think he's the best player for our franchise right now. If there was anybody in the league who I would want on the Lakers, and it's crazy, I brought this up to you, but I'll say it for our audience. The reason we have Luka is because of who, CJ?
Because of Anthony Davis, bro. Anthony Davis.
There you go. And so, my dad also mentioned that. AD is a big part of this as well. Just a blessing in disguise to have him to be able to get an asset like Luka. I think I'm just thankful that the Lakers have been blessed to have players like that, to be able to continue to churn out these franchise-altering superstars. And the 5-year 418 is what he wants after this 3-year extension. Will we give him that? Maybe. We'll have to see in 3 years. Yeah. I think we're going to get. My goal is conference finals appearance this year. NBA finals appearance would be a dream, but I think it's possible. Do we have the roster this year? No. I'm not going to say that. I think we got a little bit worse on defense, which is not good, especially for a Luka-driven offensive team. But other than that, I think the Lakers are looking towards a really, really bright future, and they've already started that. I'm just excited to see the product on the court. We keep talking about what they've done strategically off the court and signing Luka and what they're going to do with AR and getting all these guys on mid-level exceptions. But I just want to get to the season, man. But they locked him in as the franchise centerpiece. This is good. It's a good time to be a Lakers fan. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
it's good for the Lakers fans around the world.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right when I saw that, bro, I was just. I sent it to you right away. We have a little group chat with me, you, Cam, and Carlos. So it's, I sent it and I had a smile on my face, bro, because I know that obviously we didn't know if Luka was going to stay or what he was going to do. So that was kind of in the air. And I think when you're in that spot, it's kind of hard to be optimistic about the future because you just don't know. So the fact that y'all have him for the next, like you said, 3 years, it kind of just shows the direction that y'all are going in. You know, they were able to agree on a contract and kind of now I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. Like, of course, I want to see the product on the court as well. I want to see what happens post LeBron. That's really what I'm excited about. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, you know, yeah, that's gonna be a moment for everyone. Like, I've known the league with LeBron in it. So whenever that happens, it's gonna be a sad moment. But I'm excited because y'all aren't going to have such a huge salary that is kind of getting eaten up by that, and you can actually build a team around Luka, and y'all have already essentially been doing that with LeBron. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, you know, one and the same, right? Like, they're kind of, you know, similar but different in a sense. But y'all have kind of already seen what it takes to get to that top with a player of that caliber. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for that, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, of course, can't wait for them to see it on the court this upcoming season, but really kind of like post LeBron, I want to see what the Lakers look like. That's kind of where, and like we can say that now because Luka's gonna be there. You know what I mean? I think that was that was always a conversation that I would have with you. You know what I mean? Like, what's gonna happen? What is y'all's future? And then when y'all got Luka, it's like, well, we have Luka now, but Luka can leave technically, so it's like y'all have him in LA for the next 3 years. So that's what I'm really excited for, bro. Just because, like you said, he is, you know, the best player in the league whenever he's healthy. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And we saw what he was able to do in Dallas, and just kind of the type of player he is. So the fact that he's in LA, like you said, you know, y'all are blessed. You know, you have the market, the championships. It's like, it's kind of like a picture perfect, the money. So it's cool that y'all are able to have a franchise player after having your franchise player, essentially. So it's cool seeing that. And yeah, bro, I'm super excited to see what the Lakers look like at post LeBron, you know, because I feel like that's kind of where, obviously, you still have the season, anything can happen, but I feel like that's why, like you said, it's a good time to be a Lakers fan, because you can be optimistic and you can really think about y'all's future. And I feel like that's something whenever y'all got AD that kind of was taking away from your sense, because you needed to win right now for it to be a good trade or a meaningful, like, acquisition. You know what I mean? So the fact that y'all kind of have the future to look forward to, I feel like it kind of just, it's crazy how it works, bro. Because, you know, if I would have asked you this question maybe like a year or two ago, kind of like how you think your future is going to look, and you were very, very I wouldn't say worrisome, but you didn't know, because you just didn't know what was going to happen post LeBron. But y'all got your guys, so I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you, and you know, I know how much it means to you being a Lakers fan. You know, a true Lakers fan. So I can only imagine. Like I said, that's why I had to send it to you, and you know, I bet you had a big old smile on your face when you saw that, bro.
Oh yeah, I saw it in the 3-way group chat before anything. So, like you said, you were my source right there. Obviously, Sean's broke it, but I didn't see that. It was funny. Usually ESPN will push it through.
Yeah,
but I didn't. Even if I'm on Do Not Disturb, if it's like a big announcement like that, it'll get pushed. But it didn't get pushed. Yeah, you let me know about it, and you know, my dad texted me, and it's just like you're saying. I think like, to be a real Lakers fan, and that's why bringing up Kobe is just cool. But like, we've gotten, I'd say it's like more than lucky. If there was something that was more than luck in this world, it's like the Lakers have that, because they just continue to do it, man. Mm-hmm. And Luka Dončić is the Don, my brother. Like you said, bro. He when in shape and when he's healthy, he's dangerous. We'll see. You know, you asked me if this was Luka's MVP year. Like, I think we have to perform at a high level. You know, the Thunder are gonna be there, and Jokic, and you know, I would love to see Luka win this year. I mean, I'm a true Lakers fan. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it. Will we get it? I don't know. If the NBA is showing love, hopefully.
Let me give you a theoretical question. If
Go ahead.
Top 4 seed, Luka wins MVP, but y'all don't make it to the conference final, is that a successful year for you?
No. I would rather have, like you're saying, like, I think I value team success. Luka could never win an MVP, and like, I don't think that's going to change his resume.
Oh no, yeah, I don't think so.
Like, I still think he'll be, like you're saying, like, first ballot. You know, I wanted to win because, like, selfish reasons, but if I had to pick that, I would go team success for sure. Like, if you're saying, like, oh, we go to the conference finals, like I'll be like, cool, we got back there. Like even if Luka didn't win MVP, but that's a good question, man. I don't know. Like I feel like if he had a really good year, it would be a successful season. But
Right.
ultimately, the
Yeah.
Lakers are like one of the biggest playoff teams in the NBA. We always trying to get to a championship, and so that's a tough question. Yeah, I don't think it would signal success.
Okay. But if y'all make it to the conference final, that's a successful season.
Yeah, that would be successful. And if he wins MVP or not,
That's
that's
just
cool.
yeah. I was gonna say that's just like the cherry
Yeah,
on
that's
top,
just
right? Yeah.
cherry on top, the little whipped cream plus the cherry. You know how
Right.
they do it with the
Yes,
shakes.
sir.
But yeah, man, it's crazy. We usually we've been staying in the Western Conference as of recent. So these next couple pods gonna be essentially West only. But we gonna roll into the offseason files, man. The way we do it on the show, we go all 30 NBA teams. We started off with the three franchise players we know that they're building around for the foreseeable future. We go into their cap situation, which is their balance sheet, their finances. And then we describe what they can do on the court and potentially off the court to strategically improve their team. Pretty simple framework that we have on this show. But today, CJ, you knew who this team was. For the audience, we're gonna do the Memphis Grizzlies, man. And the Grizz have been on I say they're on thin ice over the last couple years since Ja proclaimed the Kings of the West. The West ain't our problem. It's been an interesting ride, man, but I'm excited to give them a deeper dive and let's see who they're working with. I was surprised. We'll get into it. We'll just get into it.
Yeah,
I'll talk
yeah,
about it later.
yeah,
But
yeah.
let's just start it up, man. I honestly think this is the number one guy that they are building around, and it's not who everybody thinks that is going to be said. So I'm gonna start it off with Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J. The reason I bring that up, I think he's more important than Ja at this moment, is it's just a value question. And I'm going to break it down a little bit later in this section for you guys, but I think what Jaren Jackson Jr. can do on the defensive end, 10x is his value. Anyways, Jaren Jackson Jr., the centerpiece of the Memphis Grizzlies, recently just signed an extension, 5 years, $240 million. We spoke about that on this show. Maximum deal. Two-way superstar. Somebody's really grown into his own over the last couple seasons. We've seen him improve. We've seen him make an all-star team. We've seen what he could do without Ja Morant. And yeah, this number just signals to me that the Grizzlies do understand that Jaren Jackson Jr. is most likely their best player. It may not be Ja. Even though Ja is the cultural icon, I think what Jaren Jackson Jr. can do from an offensive, and again, this is the key part, defensive standpoint, kind of just increases his value tenfold. The Grizzlies understand that they may be changing their franchise over the next few years, and re-signing him showed me and CJ that he's their main piece going forward. And he's a young player. He's still in the prime of his career, and I think he has a lot of growth to add to his game. And obviously a consistent defender, but rebounder, scorer, added the 3-point shot over the last few seasons. He's just a dangerous player, and when he's healthy, he's very, very good. And at times, he is their best player. But that's Jaren Jackson Jr., and get used to hearing that name, man. Feel like he's still an underrated player. You won't really hear people talking on NBA Twitter about him, but definitely in the main for sure. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to start off with Triple J, but rolling right into our next guy. You guys already know who this guy will be. None other than Ja Morant. And Ja's in an interesting spot. He's in the middle of a 5-year, $200 million deal. I think he's on the 4th year. And he's been the instrumental part to changing Memphis's culture over the last 4 or 5 years. We've seen him rise to being the face of the franchise, get a gun charge, and kind of teeter back under the sky. And he's still trying to build that reputation back up. The skill is continues to improve, though. Ja Morant, as the basketball player, I think needs to develop a 3-point shot to really, really be a threat. But the fact that he gets to the line so many times and averages 21 to 25 points with very little 3-point attempts kind of goes to show you how dangerous of a player Ja Morant is. He is their offensive catalyst and the one who runs the offense. He's the main engine to the Memphis Grizzlies' entire scoring repertoire. Anything they do, they will do through Ja because of his athleticism and his ability to control the game. Ja Morant is obviously a top 10 point guard in the NBA, also one of the most athletic players we have in the NBA. I mean, the Grizzlies fell on gold here. When they took Ja Morant, I know you saw. I'm pretty sure you were a believer in Ja from day one. I
Mm-hmm.
was too.
100%.
I knew he was going to be a franchise superstar. I didn't know his story would unfold more like AI and like kind of like the build you up to break you down type of thing.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like the gun thing was stupid. I wouldn't say he's wrong to have a gun. Like he needs to protect himself, whatever. But like he didn't need to portray that side of himself, and especially in that manner on IG Live, right? And we're not going to go there because that's kind of the dark times of the NBA. But I think that suspension is what changed the course of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's still battling back from that. He's also been hurt. Him and Jaren Jackson Jr. get hurt
Yep.
a fair amount, but ultimately those two guys are the main pieces that the Grizzlies have, and that duo right there is very scary, averaging more than 50 points a game. The assists, the rebounding numbers, what Jaren Jackson Jr. can do on defense, what Ja can do on offense, like that tandem is very dangerous, and it's also why they moved off of Desmond Bane, is because they believed that with this next guy that they have on the list, and then with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Ja Morant for you guys. Clearly the number 2 guy on the Memphis Grizzlies, hand down. Can even put him at number 1. This third guy, though, I think it was a surprise to CJ, maybe a little bit, even to see him on this list. You could put Santi Aldama, you could put Edie if you want, but I'm going with GG Jackson. I think what I saw from him his rookie year, and I know what you saw, averaging 15 points on the splits that he had in 50 games, kind of showed me that the NBA wasn't ready for his versatility. Again, a second rounder, only making $8 million over 4 years, only owed $2 million for this year. So very cost effective for the type of skill that they're going to be getting from him. And he's the replacement for Desmond Bane. He's going to fill that void very nicely. We've seen what he can do he's not a struggling shooter. He can shoot the three. He can also slash a little bit. And he is the type of player that they need to really have a good season. Show up. He needs to show up. If the Grizzlies want to have, be a top 7-6 seed in the West and kind of have that story run again into the playoffs and not have to face the Thunder or 1 seed, they need a guy like GG Jackson to really step into that role. High upside player. His two-way ability too it's a lot higher. The upside is way higher for GG than it is for Ja, just because of his size. I think GG Jackson has a potential chance to be, again, one of the Memphis Grizzlies' cornerstone pieces. And for the price, you can't tell me that's not useful. His career high is 45 points. A lot of guys in the NBA won't touch that. He did that in his rookie year. And this guy can score with the best of them. And so I feel like he is the main reason why they moved off of Desmond Bane and, of course, Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And those 3 guys, all the numbers that they have seem like a fair discount to me. Even Jaren Jackson Jr., again, can end up being one of the best two-way players that we have in this league. I would already say that he is. So 5 years, 240 seems pretty solid,
Yeah.
But I think those are the 3 main guys that they're building around. And Memphis has been in an interesting spot over the last couple of years. I think they hit a little bit of a lull. Like I said, the Ja Morant suspension kind of changed the course of their franchise. However, they are starting to get on the other side of the hill. And that's super duper important moving forward in the Western Conference landscape. So GG Jackson, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., you guys are the 3 franchise cornerstones that the Grizzlies are building around.
Yes, sir.
EJ, would you like to get into their cap situation, my man?
Of course, bro. So, like ZD said earlier, right before we started talking about the 3 franchise players, our next segment that we like to do for the offseason files is going to be their cap and roster situation. So, the general framework, their active roster salary cap is $167.3 million. The total cap allocation is $172 million. Their total payroll is $171.5 million. About $16.9 million over the cap, placing Memphis firmly in luxury tax territory. They remain below the first apron, meaning they have trade flexibility and partial exceptions access, and are well under the second apron, avoiding a hard cap lock or extra penalties. Memphis has a healthy balance sheet, and they have a relatively cheap roster compared to the other 29 NBA teams. So, like ZD was saying, having GG Jackson on such a cheap contract for what he's able to provide for you, obviously being in the second round, you're not going to have a crazy contract. So, I think, that is the one thing that I've been talking about with Memphis since really this whole season, really past 2-3 seasons, their developmental staff or just who their scouting department is one of the best, if not, obviously probably Thunder's up there because we just want a chip, but they're definitely in that conversation of being, up there with the Thunder. Just, Gigi Jackson, Jalen Wells, Edie, yeah. So they've been able to draft really well, and when you're able to do that, you're building on a team that is relatively cheap at the beginning. The only thing that I'm worried about, like you said at the beginning, this can be an expensive roster in the long run. If they develop into the players that I'm assuming that they're hoping they do, because it's kind of what I hate bringing up the Thunder because I don't, obviously I'm a Thunder fan, but kind of the situation where we're at right now where, we paid our three guys and they all have the bag, kind of puts us in a situation where different situation, we have draft picks, but super expensive, like super cheap roster in the moment, but in the future whenever they become the players that, like I said, that they're expecting them to be, expensive roster in the future. But as of right now, super good. I mean, like they got KCP on a pretty big contract, but 21 mil for the next 2 years. Yeah, and then like you said, Santi Aldama's up there. Brandon Clark's on a fairly cheap deal. They also signed Ty Jerome. I honestly forgot about that. And then Conchar, but everyone else is rookies. Edie, Cedric Coward, Jock Landale.
Howard.
Yeah.
Landale.
Even Scottie Pippen Jr. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of players that are playing above their value for them. So
as of right now, you just named a bunch of players.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And they're all cheap.
Wow.
Less than Edie's the most expensive. He has 6 mil. You know what I mean? So their balance sheet is incredible. Like nothing to really talk about. It's kind of like how who had a really good balance sheet? Oh, it was a Thunder, but like we haven't talked about them yet. But like kind of in that same realm. You know what I mean? Like super cheap contracts. Rookie deals. Obviously they're gonna get extensions soon. Ja Morant, Triple J are really the only people taking up a huge chunk of your cap space, but as they should, they're your franchise players. So kind of being able to get away or part ways with the Desmond Bane, because that obviously, if they would have paid him, they probably would be in a luxury, first apron. So I see where they're going.
Right.
And as of right now, like there's not really much to talk about. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of seeing what these players can develop into. And then obviously whenever they get to that point, they're going to have to pay them. So then we'll probably have a different conversation. But I mean, it's a part of it. You draft good rookies, and whenever they become all-star type players, you got to pay them. So as of right now, Memphis Grizzlies, no complaints over here from the 3-man weave boys. So
no, not at all. And Zach Kleiman. So we don't talk about GMs a lot. That's the GM for the Grizzlies, but Zach Kleiman, executive of the year, like super smart guy. Like was not to your point, CJ, was not gonna mess up the balance sheet. Mm-mm. So like the Grizzlies may not be winning, but like they even used to. Like I spoke about this, but like a couple years ago, I would argue I thought they could go to the finals. Yeah. Like they were making that type of noise, but Kleinman has done a really good job, to your point, to not overspend and build a functional roster that can still compete in the West for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You did a really good job explaining their balance sheet. It's like pretty pristine. I'd rate it an A.
Yeah.
I was gonna say when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense though. That's why Zach Kleiman's really good at his job. So that's makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. So super interesting right there. It didn't dawn on me either. Like basically below, who was it? May have even been like Ja. Like they don't have anybody besides Ja and Jaren Jackson that's making over 25, right?
Yeah. The next one would be KCP 21, but
KCP 21. Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's KCP.
Even
they don't even have a third max guy.
Nope.
To your point, we spoke about those 3 slots. It was going to Bane. You did a good job of addressing that. To CJ's point, push him over the luxury. Is it worth it for that roster? Kleinman said no. So interesting, man. That's good. Like that right there. I think your balance sheet determines your on-court play more than people realize. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of why we go through it a lot obviously we're going through with all 30 teams, but we stick on it for a second just so you guys can understand the gravity of what we're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
because like you
Um,
said, it's one of those things a lot of people don't think about, and they may not think it translates to on court performances, but it really does,
it
because
does.
like that's how
Yeah.
you build a team. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna like we're looking at all these balance sheets to kind of see if there's a crazy contract. Oh, they probably should go away from that. Or wow, all these guys are so cheap, they can build off of that and pay them whatever money they're gonna be worth. And yeah, you might be in the first apron, but like you could already be in the first apron and not be a good team. You know what I mean? So like,
Good team.
yeah. So
Exactly. And aging.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, for sure, dude. I love that. But yeah, A rating for me. But
mm-hmm,
moving right along, next segment that we do the strategic improvements. So these are on the court, off the court. Some teams really don't have a ton of off the court stuff to do. The Grizzlies do have some things to look into, though.
mm-hmm.
I think the landscape of the West has completely shifted over the last 5 years. They haven't made a ton of noise in the playoffs in the last few seasons. So to change that, they got to implement these things. But I'm going to start on the court. They got to optimize their rotation balance. We've briefly spoke about it, but the departure of Desmond Bane, that void. I don't know. I don't know who's going to fill the 40%, 20 points, right? Like, it's really hard to get those services. I'm not saying they need to replace it in full, but they do need to look to balance rolling in Gigi Jackson, Jalen Wells, having them kind of stagger around Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja, because the development of those two players is super important. I think this kind of goes into the upgrading of the wing depth as well, which is kind of my 2 points, so I'll speak about them for a second. But I think Santi Aldama is a good player. Like, I think he's a good player, but he's not somebody who can get his own shot.
Right.
And I think that's what separates Gigi Jackson in that regard, and Jalen Wells to an extent, right? And even Cedric Coward, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they may, like you said, the Grizzlies have a really good developmental staff. But balancing that rotation is essentially going to determine the starting lineups and then the pace of play. They need to continue to push the pace using Ja Morant. I think the Grizzlies have played at a pace that suits Ja, and they're not really a slower team, but I think they need to continue to lean into that identity. They are younger. They're a younger roster, so they're going to have their legs under them. I really want to see what happens with their wing depth, because I worry that, again, whenever they go to the bench, that's why they added Ty Jerome, right, to kind of give them some offensive creation whenever Ja's not in the game, but he's just not the biggest player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have to learn how to balance their rotation, understand who's got the hot hand, and kind of ride that. If it's Jaren Jackson Jr., you might be playing a little bit of a bigger lineup.
Mm-hmm.
If that's Ja, you might be running small. But, the one thing that I really liked about Taylor Jenkins is he was more of a player coach. He did a really good job of putting guys in the right spots to succeed. And I think moving forward, when we talk about optimizing your rotation, right, that's what that looks like. It's just simply put, so people aren't getting confused, you put guys in the right position to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning that is going to be hard for the Grizzlies. They've had continuity there for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, and they're starting fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not fresh, but from a clean slate.
Right.
And I think implementing Gigi Jackson, implementing Jalen Wells, figuring out a way that Cedric Coward can be a part of it, like, it's going to be a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they added KCP, which I didn't love. I think they took on the contract for money. That's part of the wing depth part. Who's going to be that wing to be able to play alongside Ja Morant, contribute nightly? Could be KCP. He has championship pedigree. In my opinion, it's more likely going to be the Wells, Gigi Jackson, maybe even Ty Jerome. But filling that void of Desmond Bane is the number one thing that you can do for the Grizzlies. And I think upgrading your wing depth, whether that's already on the team, maybe making a trade that we'll talk about later, and then optimizing your rotation balance is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Figuring out what the lineups are going to be like, who's got the hot hand, how can we help them get to where they need to go, to the right spots, like I said earlier. That'll make up the Grizzlies' offense. I think you're looking at the middle of the pack type of offense. If they were to do this correctly, I think they could be at the upper half. As crazy as that sounds, they have guys who can shoot threes. They have long, lanky forwards, and they have a guard who's, I would argue, top 8, top 7 in the league. And and Ja Morant. So anything can happen. They just got to be able to balance that and look for a wing to replace what Desmond Bane gave them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this next thing too is really important as well. It's mainly for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja, but I think they need to prioritize the health of their superstars. Gigi Jackson Jr. was mentioned on this show as being one of the developmental pieces for the Grizzlies' future. However, I would argue making sure that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja are healthy for the playoffs should be the utmost priority. I think injuries, suspensions, and bad timing has completely plagued the Grizzlies over the last 4 years. I think it's time to plan for something different. And maybe the answer to that question is longevity. You may not always roll out Ja Morant, even though he's in his prime. You may not always roll out Jaren Jackson Jr., even if they're in their prime. And it's not because they can't go or they're weak or whatever, but you got to think about this on a longer time horizon. And if you're really going to have these guys here for the next 4 or 5 years, like how many miles you think you putting on that gas tank, Them wheels are spinning. And so I think this is like for the injury part, but even just to keep guys fresh, I think it'll be useful to not rest them, but understand, we can't put every single responsibility on those two guys' back because if they get hurt, our season's cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Again, to put it simply for people who aren't understanding, Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., if either one of them gets hurt, the Grizzlies are looking at the plan or worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want them to get into that situation. It's a lot to expect, to have two main guys kind of running your offense. And then if those guys go out, I mean, it's really any team in the NBA. So it's not just with the Grizzlies, but unfortunately, the way that the NBA is developed now, you got 2, 3 main players who really carry or super potent offense defensive scheme, and then everybody else makes up the roster. And while that's good, if they aren't able to get their own shot, if they aren't able to really, the most important thing is you got to play. So if Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. aren't at 100% come playoff time, I think the Grizzlies are in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They got to improve their wing depth. They got to balance their rotation, and they got to prioritize longevity because at this point, it's not happening today. Basically, next year, I don't think the Grizzlies are winning a championship. So, what does that mean? Right? You have to look at it on a longer time horizon, and that's why I think that point is so important. You got to start asking questions of longevity. Even though guys are younger, if this is going to be our core roster, we've got to figure out a way to keep them fresh. And so, those are the 3 main points I wanted to make for strategically on the court. The Grizzlies have been a great team the last few seasons. They've been competitive. They ran into a buzzsaw with the Thunder last year, and obviously that changed the course of where they were going in the playoffs. But there are a couple moves that they can make off the court that are also going to help them as well. And I think, again, we're talking about the Grizzlies on a longer time horizon here. Do I think the Grizzlies are going to make these moves next season or this season? Not necessarily. But I know these are off the court moves that could improve their team. So I'm excited to get into them with you guys, man. The first thing I wanted to ask you, CJ, should they shop Ja Morant?
It's definitely a question. I think that it's a hard question that they're gonna have to really think of because, like you said, it's your best ability is availability, and as of right now, like you said, I think that suspension that he went through was kind of like the downfall in a sense of their success. They were really good, like you said, they had aspirations of being in the finals at one point, and now it's first round exit. Of course, like you said, ran into the Thunder, but I think it's a conversation that they're probably not wanting to have, but they're going to have to eventually. Like you said, maybe not within the next year or two, but it's something that they have to think about because he's worth a lot. He's very valuable, but it's are you going to be able to play? Are you going to be able to be healthy? And I think that's why.
Can he get a 3?
Right. Can you hit a 3? Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy to think about because of the type of player he is and what he has done for them. Not crazy playoff success, but just regular season. Like you said, bringing he's like an icon essentially, bringing back to Memphis that I feel like they've honestly have never really had. Like he's in the conversations of potentially being one of the skill wise one of the best players in Memphis Grizzlies history. So kind of crazy to think of, but yeah, no, it's I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Obviously, it's something I'm not rooting for at this very moment, but like you said, year 2 down the line, if kind of history repeats itself, you would have to. I mean, because it's you've been doing the same thing for 5-6 years, whatever it is. If you haven't been able to get any playoff success or make
Result.
results from that,
Right.
you're gonna have to, man. And that's crazy to think because of the type of player he is. And I love Ja. Like you said, I was high on him when he got drafted. Coming out of Murray State, seeing what he was able to do at a mid-major college, I was like, oh, he's one of them, And it's crazy to think, but yeah, bro. Honestly, like I think it's definitely something that the Grizzlies are going to have to think about. Like
Yep.
they're gonna have to.
Yeah, bro, and his value is high. The injuries, the off the court things create some uncertainty. UG Jackson's developing right behind him. Jaren Jackson Jr. Right. I think trading Jaw opens the door to a major package of players, picks, rotational guys that you can add, and more importantly, the new timeline, man. Because at the end of the day, the Memphis Grizzlies have not gotten results, and you got to start asking yourself the question, like you just said, CJ, is this what we want? Maybe we're willing to have a franchise player be here. Like Damian Lillard situation. Like maybe he'll come back. I don't know. Like if he's not able to win a championship, but even for Josh's position, like I think he would be kind of heartbroken, but at the same time understand that like he has a new opportunity somewhere else. They're not going to explore his trade value out in the market, so you're not going to hear it in the ESPN headlines. You're not going to see Shams talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you the Grizzlies are asking those questions behind the scenes. And there's teams out there that can afford to make that trade. There's teams who would be willing to make that trade. And I think if we were to see that in the next 2 to 3, 4 years, like I would not be shocked at all. And I understand, at that point it would be a decade, 9 years, so not really seeing any results is kind of why the NBA is a business ultimately. That's why we were talking about the offseason files. It's ultimately a business. All these teams want to win a championship, and if their goal is not to, then they probably shouldn't be an NBA team. So they need to figure out every possible way to do that. And if that means moving off of a franchise player like Ja Morant to do so in the future, then that's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you must do. And it is an offseason move that most likely they'd have to make during the offseason, just because, I don't know. It's really hard to have valuable trade talks as the season's going on, just because every single team is really focused on, what they're trying to do for that year. Trades happen during the year. Obviously, Luka Dončić there's things that go on. Business is done throughout the year, but I really see a future where Ja Morant isn't in a Memphis Grizzlies uniform, and it's not because he's a bad player. It's just because they need to recognize the value of value. You got to understand what type of assets that you have on the team. And so, to put it simply, it would be unwise not to shop them, because I think you could see what you get: first rounders, players, and that's a new lifeline, like I said. So it's kind of brings me into my next point, though. They should look into moving. If they don't move off of Ja, they have to look into moving their draft capital for a third star. Because if Gigi and Jalen Wells don't necessarily develop into that 20, 25 points per game scorer, like, not to say you need that to win a championship, but I think the Thunder not to bring up the Thunder again, but they gave us a really good blueprint for how to do that using 3 max players. And again, usually when a team wins a championship, even the Celtics were more of a dominant team. You could put Derek White in there, but like they usually have 3 guys who are consistently putting up numbers at a high level. Like it's, and so I say that they need to take a risk, because I haven't seen the Grizzlies do that, and they haven't been willing to give up their future to get something for now. And I think that would signal to the fans that, like, hey, they're all in. This is a franchise I can get behind. The names that come up here to include in these trades, it's interesting. Brandon Clark, who's been hurt, he's on a decently sized contract, who I love as a type of player, but if he's not going to play, we need to look to get off of him. Zaire Williams, same thing. Great player. I love Zaire Williams when he's on the court, but the value is just not coming back to me. And it's not because he's a bad player. It just may not be working out here, right? And the last player is Santi Aldama. I mean, you've developed him into a great 3-and-D guy, can't create his own shot, is never going to be the guy on an NBA team. He's not the next step for you. So looking at package deals, what can we get for? I have it written down. I think the 2038 or the 2028 first is a really good thing that they could use to trade. That I was going to say that's their 5-star asset right there. That first round pick. If you can go and look again, zoom out, look on a longer time horizon, using that to get a great player for now could completely change your franchise based on the fact of having Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. You give them another opportunity to run it back and potentially even get somebody who was better than Desmond Bane. And this route wouldn't require cap room. You just have to move salaries, which is another key thing. You don't have to worry about cap if you can pull off a trade here. I just think it would be in the Grizzlies' best interest to A, look to move Ja, and then B, look to move future draft assets. I know it's really hard for Zach Kleiman to do that, sacrifice the future for the now, but at the same time, I think the Grizzlies franchise is deserving of that, and they've shown their loyalty throughout this time period that's been really dark. And so those are the two main things that I think they could do off the court. So man, I have not seen them risk their future draft assets for now yet.
I don't think we've ever seen it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm thinking back like grit and grind era, right? Like, not really like, they had draft picks, but like nothing really came of it. And then they obviously went through their rebuild, got rid of all those guys, and then brought in Ja or Triple J and then Ja. So it's kind of like, they've been doing really well drafting, but like you said, I think they do need to make like a big splash, because that's realistically the only way they're going to be a championship contender is if they do that. Because free agents, Memphis really isn't a free agency destination that people are wanting to go to. So you're gonna have to, like you said, a lot of draft capital, maybe a young guy. I don't know who that's gonna be, but if you can sacrifice your future, and it's crazy because I feel like that's something like ideology wise that like you're usually against.
Backwards, right?
But like it makes for the Grizzlies it makes sense, because you've kind of proven to everyone that I keep bringing it up because it's such a huge point in their franchise. Their developmental staff is incredible, but you are missing that third guy, or potentially one or two, whoever you get. I don't know who it would be, but you are missing that other piece to kind of solidify y'all being, in the conversation of making it to, conference finals or finals, whatever it may be. But, I was kind of saying before, you're going to have to, sacrifice something. You can't have everything, and, what do they say? You can't have the cake or, dude, I forgot the saying. Sorry. But so kind of going back to what I was saying, kind of reiterating what you were saying, about them making a splash. I think that is gonna realistically be the only way, unless Gigi Jackson or Jalen Wells take a all-star leap at one season. Of course, and they could, but like you said, I think the Grizzlies are deserving of a big splash in like the offseason or a mid-season trade, whatever it may be, but. Acquiring another like that third piece, I think it's huge to their future, and like you were saying, they deserve it. Those fans are loyal. They've been through everything, the ups and downs, and they're always packing out. Is it FedEx?
One of the best fans. Yeah, FedEx, one of the best fan bases in the league, no doubt. And I'm not a Grizzlies fan whatsoever.
Yeah, no, you're mine.
But they show up all the time.
Yeah, bro. So so let me kind of reverse a little bit. I was gonna ask you, what do you value Ja as of right now? Like, what would you, as a Grizzly?
Really hard question.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest questions in the NBA. Actually, I thought about this in the car. The no three thing is killing me. That's what's really hurting his value, to be honest. And I love Ja Morant as the player, super athletic, super good scorer, great passer. I just. Like 10 being most valuable, 1 being the least valuable, probably like 6 or 7, like franchise centerpiece for sure. But I'd argue like you put Ja on like a team with like a Luka or a Shea, he's like the second fiddle.
Right.
Like he's somebody who would add to whatever somebody else is doing.
Right.
And we haven't seen him get to prosperity yet as being the franchise centerpiece. I mean, even Dončić reached the finals.
Right.
Like, we would see a result yet. That's why I say so. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just his career arc or what, but yeah, a 7. Saying a 7 disappointingly stupid, but very
Right.
valuable still.
Right.
Still 4-star asset,
What
5-star
I
asset.
was gonna say, what do you think he like? What's his value on the trade market? Like, how much would you get
Yeah,
back for Ja?
a lot still,
Right, like
a lot.
3, 4
Because like
first round
yeah,
picks.
yeah, I would say 2 first-round picks and a good player. If no players, all first-round picks, all of them,
Right.
your entire future, and uh, like you're saying, like I would have to be receiving 5-star value in return
Right.
because I know he has 5-star value. So to answer your question, it's 5 stars. It's just like his 5 stars now are kind of like dimmed a little bit to me, just because he doesn't have that like he is that, but he's not that. Like there's still that next level that like he just may never go to for whatever reason. And
Mhm.
I don't want to sound like a giant or anything. He'll just never be a good shooter. It seems like, and I think that's always going to hurt him.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. I was curious cuz I mean
That's a good question.
we've been talking, about the Grizzlies, 20 minutes now, and it's kind of feel like
Yeah, 20 plus, whatever,
that's kind of
30 minutes.
something where we got to like kind of ask that question to ourselves too. You know what I mean? Like he's one of the best point guards in the league, but like he just hasn't taken that next leap. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't like you said. I don't want to hate on Ja. I love Ja, but like
No,
I
he could
think
be all-star this year, dude.
oh yeah, I agree. I think so too. But like it's dude, it's so crazy because like you said the suspension and the injuries, bro.
Yeah,
That's literally been
I think it changed his life. More
change.
importantly,
Oh what?
like you're saying, like even deeper than just like the type of person he is.
Right.
I think that's what that honestly is. I'm glad you brought that up. I see that in his like eyes, low
Mm,
key. Like you can see, like he was this person before, kind of like the Ja Morant before, but now he does like less of that because he just doesn't want to get in trouble. Like
yeah.
I know he's still like that behind the scenes,
Right.
but I definitely see him like pull back just based off of the fact of what happened 2 years ago now. I know you don't even really like talking about it, but
Yeah.
it happened like over 700 days ago, so it's
Right.
not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's
Right.
just
Right.
like for where he is now, it's a big deal because
Mm-hmm.
I see that on the a base and like anytime he gets hurt too, like you can whenever he's on the bench, he just yeah, bro, like kind of like you're saying, like he knows he's in the right place, but he just seems checked out sometimes
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. And like the older that he gets, the more pain that I see in his eyes. Because when he was younger, he was just a lot happier.
Yeah.
But I understand why.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, dude.
That's it.
It's
Like
crazy.
I think literally he used to play with more joy than the joy that he plays with now, and I know where that joy was removed from. It's just taken away from like the type of player that he is. Because I know we all want to see Ja doing well, and even bringing up Jaren Jackson Jr. I thought was cool too. Because I know we don't speak about him a lot, but like those two guys are top 25 players in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
top 30 players in the NBA.
Yeah.
So and the Grizzlies have two of them.
Two of them. Crazy.
Like they should be with a healthy balance sheet. Like there's no reason that Zach Kleiman, like they'll get it together. It's just like a matter of when. And you know, Grizzlies fans, to end this off right, don't give up hope. I think you guys have a lot of opportunities here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Their future is definitely bright, and it's just kind of figuring, like you said, they're gonna have to. They had continuity, and not saying that they don't now, but Desmond part of their team and filling that void, figuring out who's going to step up and be that next player for them is going to be probably like one of their main priorities, and kind of like really their future. Like that's kind of where I'm basing it, like all this whole conversation off of, like who's going to be that next person to come in and be that third fiddle, second fiddle, whatever, first fiddle, whatever you want to call it. But just their future is so bright, it's kind of hard to like talk down on them, but like at the same time it hasn't produced any results.
Materialize.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you have two of the league's, like you said, top 30 players in the league. So it's kind of like, when will that happen, if it will happen? So but no, I'm super excited to see what they can do. And their season is going to be good. Kind of seeing, like I was saying just right before, the Desmond Bane's departure, what that's going to look like. And, I'm hoping for a healthy season from Ja, bro. Like, I feel like we haven't seen it in a while, but no, yeah, that was a banger, bro. Was there?
Just keeping him healthy, maybe not playing him here and there, just making sure he's fresh. But yeah, there's nothing else I want to add, man. I think Grizzlies. See, I do want to watch the Grizzlies more now. I think.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I'm thinking about. Not even like the Lakers or anything like that, but just thinking about the Grizzlies, what they can do moving forward. But yeah, like seeing Luka, De'Aaron Fox, like all that stuff makes me like really happy as a basketball fan. I'm excited. I was happy we got to chop it up about that today.
Yeah,
you have anything else you wanted to add, bro?
No, bro. I think this is a great one. Glad we're kind of getting some news that we can chop it up about, and we
knew that was coming.
Fact that Luka signed that extension. I know that brought a smile to your face, bro, and it brought a smile to my face thinking of it. You know what I mean? So super happy for you, and ready for the season, bro. That's all I gotta end this episode off. Just huge things are happening, man, and hopefully the Thunder could go back to back, bro. Hopefully.
Oh, we'll see. Hopefully the Lakers can stop you in your tracks. But, that's gonna do it for the boys over here at 3-Man Weave, man. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time, man. Peace. 3-Man.